Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new live edition, in this instance, episode of the Promised Land podcast on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify as well. If you're listening on audio platforms after the fact, you can actually catch me doing these live from now on moving forward. Please subscribe to the link that's in the description on those audio platforms. And hello everyone, if you're watching me or listening to me at the moment on this YouTube live stream, then please get involved in the chat. Please let me know what you think. I'm going to be talking today about the latest news around Manchester United. A new bid for Bryan Mbeumo has gone in. There's speculation around Alejandro Garnacho and Christopher Nkunku going their separate ways from Manchester United and Chelsea and going to the other club in question. So I'll be talking about that, talking about the profiling there. Is this a good move for Manchester United? I'll be giving my opinions and my thoughts on that. And I'll be also talking about some new speculation that Casemiro might end up leaving the club for Saudi Arabia and Al Nassr. We'll see what happens there. Pinch of salt, obviously, I think might be needed. But yeah, if you're just joining, please get in the comment section. Please let me know what you think. Please let me know your opinions on anything going on around Manchester United, and I'll answer your questions later in the podcast. But please, yeah, follow me on social media as well at _Scott Saunders on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Anyway, let's talk to start with about this new Bryan Mbeumo bid. Now, Manchester United have submitted an improved offer for the Brentford forward, Bryan Mbeumo, over 60 million quid. I think the first deal came in, or the first offer came in at 45 million plus 10 million. And obviously that was pushed back by Brentford. We don't have any word as I record this yet on if this amount of money will be enough to get the deal done for Manchester United. But it does seem like after a week or so of nobody or no real movement for this deal, it does seem like United have come back now and they're getting closer to this happening. Well, I think it's just a matter of time. It really is just a matter of time for this one to happen, really. And it's a matter of getting the upfront cost right. It's a matter of getting the overall cost right and this kind of thing. And look, we'll see what happens. Brentford have been driving a hard bargain here. Manchester United have just paid 65 million or 62 million quid for Matheus Cunha as well. So Brentford probably well within their rights to go and ask for the kind of money that they're asking for. But obviously Manchester United with a cash position, which is quite difficult. They have to be careful with their money. We know that they need to make sales moving forward over the course of the summer to go and buy more players on top of this. But, you know, I think after the speculation around Tottenham, after the speculation around Thomas Frank and Bryan Mbeumo's head potentially being turned, it does seem as though to me that Bryan Mbeumo it's just a matter of time for him to be on his way to Manchester United. So we'll see what this week brings with it. We'll see if there's any developments, and I'll be checking as well if there are any developments over the course of the podcast to see if anything moves forward with this. But, you know, like I say, I think it's not too far away at the moment. And if Brentford are looking for 65 million all in, and United have gone above 65 million or above 60 million, we know that it's not really that far away at the moment. So no word yet, but it's looking closer than it has been. And obviously the United press pack have been communicating that this was actually happening over the course of the last 12 hours plus or so. This news came in last night, Monday night, and it does seem as though United are confident enough to be putting this one out there and are confident enough to be in a position where they think that they're going to get this deal done. We'll see what happens. But obviously those reports, and I think it was Jamie Jackson in The Guardian who's gone out and said that after the suggestions a few weeks ago from the Newcastle side of things, that United were looking at paying £250,000 a week to Bryan Mbeumo, because that's the deal that he wanted. Obviously, I think we're in a more realistic territory now with the actual wages that he'll be looking at, £150,000 a week, which is kind of in line with the new wage structure that United want to build and where they want to put their new signings. And I think Matheus Cunha will be on similar money between that 150 and 200k mark. Obviously, there's other players in the team at the moment. You look at the likes of Ahmad and Lenny Yoro. I think they've signed deals recently where they're looking at 115 to 120,000 pounds a week. So in terms of stature, obviously there's a lot of contracts that United have on their books at the moment that need to be addressed. And I'm talking about the likes of Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford. Obviously, they're high earners at the club at the moment, and United have essentially made it known that they don't want them. I'll be talking about Casemiro towards the end of the podcast as well. He's on massive money. That contract that they gave out at the time was absolutely ludicrous. And obviously, if you're a player at that age, I think he's like 32, 33 now. If you're a player of that age and you're getting a contract like that, is absolutely fantastic money for you. But for the buying club, you know that you're just waiting for that moment where performance levels drop off because legs have gone and this kind of thing. And United reached that point with Casemiro a little while ago, so they're lugged with that contract now for another year at least, unless he ends up leaving before. But United will be back in preseason training on July the 7th, which is 2 weeks away. Let's see, 1 full week here. Yeah, 2 weeks. So you got 2 full weeks left of time off for players to have their holidays, for players to get ready to come back for preseason. This preseason that Ruben Amorim is going to have is absolutely imperative to Manchester United, making sure that they hit the ground running for next season. Amorim is going to need as many players in as possible for his new project moving into this, but as it stands, it's not really looking likely that anybody other than Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo will be in to join that preseason from the very beginning of it. United go on their preseason tour a couple of weeks after that, then I think, of the USA, and they play a few Premier League teams while they're out there. Amorim is going to need to drill these players pretty hard. Amorim is going to need to make sure that his tactical ideas and his fitness coaches and that kind of thing, they all take the absolute maximum advantage of this time in preseason that they have, because United need to hit the ground running from the start of next season. Obviously, at Arsenal on the first day of the season, we will see whether United can, jump out of the poor season that they had last year and make several steps forward from the very beginning of the season. But we'll see about that. But obviously, Bryan Mbeumo I think he wants Manchester United. It's pretty clear to see that he wants this move to happen. It's just a matter of waiting. It's just a matter of Man United making sure that they do meet what Brentford want. And I understand it can be frustrating for a lot of people. It's frustrating that bids can go in. I think this has been going on for the most part of June. So it's been about 3 weeks now or so. United not really there yet, but hopefully this bid gets them a bit closer to making sure that deal is done. Anyway, let's move on to the bigger, I suppose, the biggest story of the day outside. Like, the Mbeumo bid is obviously a development of another story. The Garnacho and Nkunku swap stuff is back, and that was put out there in January as a potential route out of Old Trafford for Garnacho, as a potential route out of Stamford Bridge for Nkunku, who's been essentially a disastrous signing for Chelsea. They've signed a lot of players over the past few seasons, and not all of them have worked out. And Nkunku is another one of those players that they had high hopes for, that they don't really have a place for in this new Enzo Maresca-style Chelsea team. So they clearly want to sell him. There's been some interest from Bayern Munich in the past, and whether they revisit that over the course of the summer, who knows? But there's been a number of suggestions from a number of sources over the past 24 hours or so that Manchester United and Chelsea, and this is coming from The Telegraph and Matt Law and Jason Burt, Chelsea and Manchester United are weighing up the possibility of trying to send Christopher Nkunku and Alejandro Garnacho in opposite directions. So it's stressed that this is not a swap deal, and obviously I think swap deals are invariably really, really hard to do. And therefore not really, they don't happen very often. One player might go one way, one player might go the other way, but they're going to be treated as separate deals if they do come about, obviously. But it's important to stress at the moment that this is very much at the opening stage and just like loose discussions at the moment. It doesn't mean that it's particularly real or whatever, but I think the Garnacho Chelsea link in particular is something that we'll see what Chelsea do, because they're obviously looking at Jamie Gittins and this kind of thing from Borussia Dortmund, but we'll see what Chelsea do. There is suggestion with Mykhailo Mudrik's ban and the fact that they wanted a winger anyway. There's potential for Chelsea to go and get two wingers over the course of the summer. And we'll see what happens there. And I think with all of the fallout around Garnacho over the course of the week and him wearing the Marcus Rashford shirt and absolutely, ridiculous fallout with him, it has been, well, it's just a matter of time really until this one gets sorted out in terms of him leaving Manchester United. We don't really know where he's going to go yet, but I think if there was a club that he was going to pick that would be the destination of choice, given all of the points to what his preferred transfer destination is. Seems like he wants to stay in the Premier League. It seems like he wants to move to London as well. I think that's his preference. Chelsea does seem to be that club, really, that is the most likely one at the moment, even though they're going and signing Jamie Gittins by the looks of it. Look, it's a challenging one. I'll get to Nkunku in a second, but just on Garnacho, I think United really, I've spoken on this podcast over the course of the last few weeks about United needing to get players out as soon as they possibly can. Obviously, it's really important that Ruben Amorim gets the disciplinary side of things at the top of his priority list, and he's excluded certain players from the project already. Garnacho, obviously, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Anthony, all out of the project, and there will be more players who are sold by United over the course of the summer as well. But Garnacho's behaviour, his brother's social media activity over the course of the last few months, Garnacho's social media activity over the course of the last few months as well, is just, it's not really becoming of the type of player that and the type of person that Manchester United will want at their football club. So it is it's a fine balance that Amorim and Manchester United have to strike, because we know that Amorim wants players out. We know that pre-season is going to start in a couple of weeks' time, and we know that Amorim is going to want a concentrated group of players to work with that he can move forward with and make sure that that bad attitude that he's been calling out quite a lot is just eradicated from the football club completely. And the best way to go about that is to get the players out at the earliest possible opportunity that he doesn't want. But there's also a fine line to strike between getting those players out really early and making sure that United get the best deal possible for what they want to achieve in sales in order so they can reinvest that money. So we'll see what happens there. United are meant to be holding out for 60 or 70 million quid, and that's been their position on Garnacho since January. It's really interesting to see whether they'll get this money. There's been some interest from the likes of Napoli. There's been some interest from the likes of Bayer Leverkusen and this kind of thing. Chelsea, Arsenal have been linked. Aston Villa have been linked. And of course, Garnacho has been wearing an Aston Villa shirt over the past few days. But it is potentially... Yeah, look, if United are holding out for 60 or 70 million quid for Garnacho, then I think this is probably the one player they can really afford to dig their heels in about and make sure that they try and demand the best possible deal and the biggest possible money because of the potential upside on this transfer for them. We've spoken a lot about PSR, and obviously there was a report a few weeks ago which clarified how United's PSR position looked, especially over the course of the last season with the Red Football Limited company and this kind of thing. United's PSR position isn't nearly as bad as we thought it was just a few weeks ago. But it's important that United really try and strike that balance between making sure that they get players out and making sure that players who are of massive value to this football club, that they get the best deals for them. So it's a really interesting balance that they have to strike. And for me, I think the one deal that they can really afford to dig their heels in on, because of the upside, because of the pure profit that will come with it, is Alejandro Garnacho. And for me, if that means that he comes back and he's training with youth teams or whatever as Manchester United try and find the best deal and play clubs off against each other, some may look at this and think, just get rid of him now and just take whatever deal you can, because that will make a difference anyway. 60 or 70 million quid would make a hell of a big difference to how Manchester United can spend over the next few summers. So we'll see how this one goes. It is, hey, Jonathan, hey there. Thanks for getting in the chat. Let me know. Thanks for joining. And I've just been talking about Bryan Mbeumo. Alejandro Garnacho, Christopher Nkunku on the agenda at the moment, so please get involved in the chat if you would. It is, yeah, like I've said, for me, it is 60 or 70 million quid for Garnacho is a ridiculously high price that Manchester United are looking for. But I think given the potential interest in him and given the low salary that he's on, I think this is one that they can really push the boat out and try and play clubs off against each other. Because Garnacho is, for all of the attitude problems that he's had, for all of the attitude problems that he's displayed, he is quite talented. And I know that there has been a number of people over the past few months, me included for a little while, who've been disappointed at the fact that Garnacho would end up leaving the club, because I know that he's really, really talented, has lots of potential, but the attitude problem is something that is a big red flag. Jonathan there says, my fear is that if we don't take a deal like this for Garnacho, we'll be stuck with his toxic, immature behavior. And obviously, like I've said, Jonathan, this is a balance that United have to strike. And we know that they need to raise money because they need to reinvest that money. Marcus Rashford is probably looking like the most unlikely player at the moment to leave for substantial money, given, you know, he seems to be digging his heels in once that Barcelona move, and there is suggestions really that move could play out over the course of the summer and end up being a loan. So Anthony probably looks most likely to go earliest. Jadon Sancho, there's a growing interest in him, and I don't think Jadon Sancho has any real interest of coming back. So United need to make sure that, I think, taking a breaking even on Jadon Sancho and making sure that you just get him out of the club because of the high wages that he's on is probably the most important thing to do. Garnacho, for me, just with the pure upside and the fact that he's on low wages, probably does mean that, you can push him back in the reserves and try and play this out over the course of the summer to get the best deal for you. Garnacho, for me, if you're getting anywhere close to 60 million, that makes a hell of a difference. And I think the fact that he's on low wages might mean that clubs are more willing to pay higher transfer fees because they won't have that massive commitment on wages that the likes of Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford have already. We'll see how this one goes, but obviously this speculation of him going to Chelsea has been persisting for a while. This speculation of him actually leaving and going to Napoli has been persisting for a while. It is obviously a big priority, and I do think Garnacho will leave over the course of the summer at some point, but we will see exactly what happens there. It's important to stress that this swap deal at the moment is just pie in the sky potential. Jonathan again says, I bite your hand off at 50 million. I really hope Villa will go for him. 50 million for me, I think United would take that. It's just a case of making sure that clubs get there, but I don't really know where Aston Villa are getting that 50 million from at the moment, I got to say. It is a real... United kind of have to try and fish the willing parties out and get them and try and start a bidding war. Because, like I say, I think this kid does have potential. Maybe not as much as we once hoped, or maybe that we're saying that in spite because of the way he's behaved. I don't know. But it's important to stress that this is, A, not a swap deal, B, two separate deals potentially, and C, just pie in the sky has been floated out there. We don't even know if that's happening at the moment. But I think the bigger part that I want to get into over the course of this story is the Christopher Nkunku bit. And look, United were linked with him in January. And at the time, on a potential loan deal for the remainder of the season, I looked at it and I thought that might be a risk that is worth taking because he does fit one of those two number 10 roles, probably better than a lot of the players that United do have at the moment. And it would be a short-term, low-risk deal, and you could see what happens, see how he responded to that system, see how he responded in the Premier League and at Manchester United, and then take it from there. But I didn't really envision this becoming a more permanent version of a deal at that point. And now, obviously, it's been floated again, and the report from the Telegraph, and it's been reported in numerous places. Obviously, both players want to quit their clubs, and as the report says, the prospect of them trading places has not been ruled out, although there's no expectation of a swap deal being negotiated. Again, this is going to be two separate deals because United need to make sure that they cop in as much money as possible for Garnacho to register it on the books as pure profit. And then any spend that they do hypothetically in Christopher Nkunku's case at the moment, they could write off over the course of the contract in amortization purposes. So it's important that, and that would be the same for Chelsea as well. Look, I think for me, this Nkunku link now doesn't make much sense. It doesn't make much sense at all. I know that United are looking at potentially bringing in a striker, and they're looking at even signing one player in these attacking positions beyond Bryan Mbeumo. I think that one will happen, obviously. But Nkunku, for me, does seem like there's a lot of red flags to this. And obviously, I'm hoping that this doesn't really take off and take much more of a life than it currently has. He's a big flight risk at the moment because he's been in the Premier League for a couple of years now, has not made any kind of impact at Chelsea at all. It hasn't really seemed like he is a natural fit or particularly works well. And does the league suit him? I think that's really up for question at the moment. Big flight risk, obviously, would be a potentially expensive deal on big wages. And I don't think really a player like that is a risk that United can afford to take at the moment, even though I think Christopher Vivell, who is in charge of recruitment at United, does know him and has worked with him in the past. It is a completely different kettle of fish at the moment. You're picking up a player who's failed at another club and hoping really that he would be able to come in and make a difference to your team, even though he's not really shown any aptitude to flourish in the Premier League. I think there are certain players who, and maybe Jadon Sancho is this case as well, who've joined Premier League clubs and have shown that while they've succeeded in the Bundesliga, the Premier League isn't really the best place for them. I think they need to hit a certain intensity, speed, and guard against injuries and this kind of thing. And I don't really think that Nkunku has shown anything to suggest that he can make it in the Premier League, even though he's probably been misprofiled at Chelsea. Like I say, will come very expensive for what United want. Has been injured a fair bit. Hasn't made the kind of impact that United would want to see at Chelsea in the Premier League. And I think it is a real big risk if they ended up doing that. And the fact as well, I think this is the big thing for me, the fact that this has come about now, after Manchester United have signed Matheus Cunha, and as Manchester United have put in a new bid for Bryan Mbeumo, those 2 10 positions for Cunha and for Mbeumo, left and right respectively, where does he fit in the team? I understand that there's an argument to be made for depth, but United have plenty of players already that are on their books that I don't really see them selling, that could be the understudy players to those 2 10 roles. You're looking at Mason Mount. Bruno Fernandes can play there, obviously, and we've been talking about where he plays and fits into this team next season. Obviously, they're both not the exact right profiles, even though Mason Mount perhaps is a better fit for that left 10 position than any other real player in the team, given what Ruben Amorim looks for, the intensity that he plays out and this kind of thing. Obviously, he's had injuries of his own as well. And recent transfers from Chelsea to Manchester United haven't actually proven all that successful. So that's another warning sign there. There's an argument to say that United need more depth. I completely get that. But I think this one is just too much of a red flag, really, to be that depth position. You've solved, if Mbeumo comes, you've solved the left 10 and the right 10 immediately as your first 2 signings of the summer. The striker position, the striker profile, United have been looking at, Victor Gyökeres and other players like this, and obviously Gyökeres is waiting for Arsenal at the moment, and I don't think that one will happen at the moment. Jonathan there has said, I'd take Nkunku with a loan with option if it facilitates Chelsea bidding for Garnacho. I mean, that is something different. If United are going to go and put money up to sign Nkunku, that one is a fair old red flag. But I think if you're looking at loan with option, which I'm not sure Chelsea would really be looking at this present time, that is more palatable, obviously. But you don't really want to give out as big a transfer fee and sign Nkunku on a permanent deal if you don't have an automatic, immediate place in the first team for him every week. And he's probably not good enough for that anyway. The striker profile is what I was just talking about there. It is, even Nkunku in this role doesn't strike me as the kind of right fit. I think Amorim is looking for more of a, battering ram, like physical forward who can run the channels, who can put himself about, who's really fast. And the kind of profile that Gyökeres was, or is, I think is the kind of profile that United have been looking at and should be looking at, really. Obviously, there's other players out there that United are going to be looking at that could potentially be better fits in that striker profile for or than Christopher Nkunku as well. But I think this one is just fraught with red flags for me. And obviously, I think I said on social media as well, if you sign Cunha and Mbeumo, you don't need Nkunku. And I think Nkunku isn't really the kind of player that I'd like to see United taking a risk on, especially on a permanent deal over the course of the summer. So obviously, we're very much speculating here. This doesn't mean at all that this deal is going to happen. It's merely weighing up the possibility of this happening. Means nothing at this stage, even though there are lots of reports around it. It's something that they're considering, but it's more a transfer of convenience for both teams. I think there's probably more in Chelsea looking at Garnacho and putting up big money for Garnacho, to be honest. But we wait and see on that. Let's hope that Chelsea coming to the table potentially can stir up some extra interest in Garnacho from some other clubs so United can get to the transfer fee that we think that they want. And Nkunku plays more like Xerxes. He always played with the target man. Yeah, I mean, Xerxes as well. I haven't mentioned him specifically, but I think the way that he was developing last season, one of those two number 10 roles is probably his best position as well. So I don't even know what's going to happen with him. So you've got, and where does he fit? Does he fit up front? I'm not entirely sure at the moment. Mason Mount. Ahmad can play in the 10 positions. Bruno Fernandes, Joshua Xerxes, Mason Mount, like lots of players already. I don't think after Mbeumo comes in and is the perfect fit for that right 10, and with Cunha in there as well, the perfect fit for the left 10, you don't need any more 10s for me. You might need depth in the attacking positions, but yes, of course. Please like this stream if you have not done so already and you're watching. Please like the stream. I'd like to get this out to more people. Obviously, this is a brand new channel. And follow the Promised Land podcast on audio as well, Apple and Spotify. You can go over there and listen to these podcasts going out on audio. This is a brand new channel, like I say, and I'm trying to, although not anywhere near consistently enough to do it at the moment, it's important that, for me anyway, that hopefully people join this channel, subscribe to it, so I can do more of these and reach more people. But yeah, like the stream, get involved in the comments as well. Really big thanks to Jonathan for getting involved in the comments, understanding that this is a brand new channel and it's actually quite difficult to get these off the ground, but I need to be better at being consistent and this kind of thing. Anyway, a couple more stories. It was one quick bit of news on Johnny Evans staying in a youth bridging role for loans and this kind of thing. I would just like to say it's quite important that United do keep hold a bit of retention with some of their. Can you call Johnny Evans a legend? Not entirely sure, probably not, but you know, he's been a great servant to United over the years, and obviously has had 2 years at United recently and has done admirably, obviously. And I think it's really important to keep good characters like that around, and it's important to make sure that the likes of him and Darren Fletcher, who could be on the backroom staff now, Tom Heaton staying as third choice goalkeeper and this kind of thing. It is important to keep good quality characters around like that. And I think finding a role for Johnny Evans in the backroom staff is really nice. So good to see that he's staying. And I'll just end the podcast today with a little bit around the Casemiro move. Obviously, there was some potential chat yesterday or last night that he was closing in on a move to Al Nassr, Cristiano Ronaldo's football club. And look, I think this is the transfer window, obviously, and you get lots of these. You get lots of these little stories coming out from out of nowhere that don't really take you anywhere, that don't really go anywhere, that don't mean anything. And at this point, it's really hard to say whether there's any kind of meat on the bone with that story. There's no foundations to those stories at present. So I would take those with a pinch of salt and make sure that it is, obviously I think Casemiro is not going to be a Manchester United first choice beyond the start of next season, not the season coming, because he's out of contract. And I'm sure that he will leave at the end of his current contract simply because his wages are too high. His attitude is something that I think United wouldn't really need to maintain. But when you weigh up like the pros and the cons, I think if United got a transfer fee that was acceptable to them, I think Casemiro would be gone in a heartbeat if he accepted that move. United need to make sure that they trim their wage bill down and get that in a kind of manageable level. So we'll see If this one develops, then obviously I think there aren't too many potential exit routes for Casemiro. I think you look at the likes of Turkey, you look at the likes of Saudi Arabia, they're probably the only real places that Casemiro can go, simply because of the wages that he commands and he currently has, and simply because there's not going to be too many clubs out there that are going to be able to pay the kind of wages that Casemiro expects, or meet or take a player like that off their hands who's on massive wages. So, look, I think we'll see how this one develops. Obviously, this one's very early days and it has come out of nowhere. It could quite easily just disappear into nowhere, just as quickly as it came about. So, Michael Ball, hello, mate. I generally believe that the club know who they want and they want out, and I believe this time we'll get it done. Yeah, I think obviously there are different people in the football club at the moment in charge of transfers and making sure that United do turn a corner, but you just can't do it in the click of a finger. As frustrating as it is going to be for supporters to go and have faith and trust after all the failures that United have had in the past transfer windows, it's difficult for people to trust that they're doing the right things. And it's also difficult to pull off all the business that you want to do before July the 1st as well. Simply put, the end of the financial year in football terms is literally next Monday, I think, the 30th of June. So some clubs will be a little bit... Michael Ball and Jonathan Ball, it's the Ball takeover. Lovely stuff, guys. Thanks for joining and thanks for getting in the comment section. Please like the video if you've not done so already. It is... I forgot my train of thought there. Look, I think just on Casemiro, it is... We'll see what happens. And I was addressing the Michael Ball comment, wasn't I? So there's a different group of people in charge of transfers at the moment, and it's... Simply put, United are lugged with so many difficult contracts to get rid of. It's not quite as simple as making sure that you approach all these football clubs and get the deal you want straight away. A lot of these players are going to be difficult to shift. A lot of these players are difficult to, find new places for simply because of the contracts that they're on. It will take a few transfer windows until this club is on the right footing and deals are much easier to pull off in terms of sales. Once United correct their wage bill, they're just suffering at the moment with previous old contracts that have been given out before the new football management team were in there. And it just isn't easy. It's just not easy. So it's unrealistic to expect that they do everything yesterday. So you need to have an element of patience, but it's also important to know that getting a certain amount of deals done before preseason starts and before the preseason tour starts, in order for Ruben Amorim to have a fighting chance of getting things right, United need to do deals early. And I think, to be honest, with the Cunha deal done, with the Mbeumo bid going in now, and we'll see whether there's any further developments on this over the course of the week. This one can be done, I think. If this one is done next week, I think we're okay. I think it's okay. But Jonathan there again is saying, I think as we saw last season, teams like Villa, Newcastle and Chelsea are keen to do reciprocal deals to get around PSR. I'm not sure there's as much need for those at the moment, although we will see over the course of the week just the clubs who are exactly desperate to do deals like that. I think it was really weird to see Villa, Chelsea and Newcastle do the kind of deals that they did last year quite quickly for big money in order to correct their books and balance out PSR. I think clubs are a lot more wary of those restrictions now and have been a lot more careful over the course of the summer, but we don't know. I think there have been suggestions that Villa are probably the closest ones to that PSR line, so maybe they will force some deals over the course of the next week because they're a little bit worried about their position. But generally, I think clubs that have done their business already have been confident that they can book those in this financial year and they can move forward. But I think that for a lot of clubs, really, you don't really see the bulk of the business being done until after June 30th or July 1st. So we'll wait and see. I think I saw yesterday that the Xerxes deal, which was the first deal last summer, was on July 12th. Because I was away in Germany it was around the time of the Euro 2024 semi-final final kind of time. So it is look, we'll wait and see what happens there, but I'm gonna shoot away from this podcast now. I really appreciate you guys who've joined me and getting in the comment section as well. If you do have any comments, please leave them under the video. Big thanks to Jonathan, big thanks to Michael as well, who've joined me and got in the comment section over the course of this. I'll just look at this last comment from Jonathan. If Casemiro did leave, I'd approach Aston Villa or Chelsea for reciprocal deals for Carney Chukwuemeka and Kamara for Garnacho. I mean, yeah, I mean, like Boubacar Kamara, for example, is a really good example of a player that has proven that he can do really well in the Premier League. But Aston Villa took a risk on him and they signed him on a free transfer from Marseille, I think it was, a couple of years ago. So those kind of deals are out there, and I'd like to see Manchester United take a chance on those kinds of deals. We will wait and see how they change their behaviours. Rather than going for the likes of Christopher Nkunku, this kind of thing, find gems, find undervalued gems. And maybe there's a case to say that Nkunku could be that, but I don't see an immediate position in the first team for him. So I don't really think that's one that you should expect United to go and end up doing. Stan the Man says this is a quality United channel. Thanks very much, man. It is like, just to speak to you guys who are watching here now, really appreciate it if you do like the stream, if you do comment below, because it's really hard getting a YouTube channel off the ground. I've only tried to do this at the moment with live streams, but once the live streams end up finishing, they don't really go anywhere. I'm trying to get people across from the audio platform at the moment as well to subscribe to this channel. But obviously, I think the core audience that I do have on those audio platforms are, you know, firmly in the hands of audio. So look, I think it's important that hopefully I need to grow this channel. And obviously, it's really difficult to get channels like this off the ground. And I didn't want to start a new channel after the previous channel that was open, but I think that was the only way that I could have done it, really, given I can actually do live streams on this channel. I couldn't do them on the other one that I was on. But for those of you who have moved across or have found me recently and are watching now, massive thanks, honestly, and please like the stream and please get involved. I will really want to get to a point and a time where I'm streaming regularly, and I'm probably 10 in the morning isn't probably the best time or whatever it is, but look, I'll wait and see. I'm having lots of stuff going on at the moment. I can't really get into an established pattern with, I'm basically moving house at the moment, so doing viewings and this kind of thing. It is, and they come up whenever time, so it's really difficult. But Shay says, good luck with the channel. Thank you very much, mate. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks to those of you who have joined me for this podcast. I'll wrap it from there, I think, and be back soon with another podcast, hopefully. And if you prefer audio, you can subscribe to the Promised Land podcast on Apple and Spotify. Those channels are out there. Follow me on social media as well at _Scott Saunders on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And obviously, this channel, if you're here already, thank you very much for subscribing to it. Thank you very much for getting involved in the comments. When, like, at the start of this podcast, when there was like nobody watching it, I was like, for God's sake, man, it's really difficult to get this up. And but when I see that there's more people, it is much easier to get involved with you guys. And I do want to do this more, but obviously, I think times after rewrite, you just do have to crack on with it though at the same time. So thanks to those of you who have been involved and been on this podcast with me and been in the comment section. Leave a comment on the video afterwards if you would as well, to make sure that we get this to more people, and subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. I'll see you soon, everyone. Hopefully United get, as Jonathan says, a here we go soon, and we get some serious movement on Bryan Mbeumo. If we do, I'll probably be back with another podcast. But until next time, everyone, there's plenty of transfer speculation going on. So after a lull last week, I think the United are back in business at the moment and starting to make their moves, and they need to do a hell of a lot over the course of the summer. But thanks very much, everyone, for watching. See you soon. Until next time, this has been the Promised Land podcast. Please subscribe on audio and on YouTube as well. See you soon.